All right, everybody, get ready for 15 minutes or less of fun. We're talking today about Chapter 10, that differential reinforcement through antecedent control and shaping. This is my absolute favorite way to support students, that antecedent control, getting to the behavior before the behavior ever starts. If I can shape my classroom, provide positive expectations, have great classroom management, and classroom atmosphere and teach students what I expect continuously, I have a much higher rate of success of helping students do what they should be doing. So let's talk more about how to do all of that. We're going to start by saying you can ignore the symbols for me. The symbols get in the way, I think, of what we're doing. And I'll let you know that in the coding that I did of student behaviors, I did not use these codes. In the example they give, a student uses obscene language in math class to gain the teacher's attention. I would be coding that behavior not as an SD, but as an F for the F word, an S for the S word, so that I know exactly what the student is saying. And I'm going to look at the function of the behavior, but I'm not going to do that through coding. So feel free to ignore the coding as far as I'm concerned, and if you move on to a higher level of ABA class, then you'll need to pick back up with the coding, but we're not going to focus on it in here. We're instead going to focus on strategies. So let's talk about discrimination training, and we use this a lot with kids on the autism spectrum, kids with moderate to severe disabilities, but this can be used with any student, especially students at a young age. The example here of stimulus over selectivity is when the teacher has a student identify his or her written name from an array. We do this a lot with older students by having them identify, an element on the periodic table, or look for a number, the number 59 on a hundreds chart. And we want them to find that without providing them with reinforcement. You will find that it is very hard to focus on not giving reinforcement because we are Pavlovian trained to say good job, great job, great work, good job, great job, great job, good job, great job. We say it over and over again. So quite often we are reinforcing behavior with our language. We know that concept formation is really important for kids, and that's teaching by presenting both positive and negative examples, or correct and incorrect examples. So if I am talking about the sound SH makes the sh sound, and I'm saying the SH sound is in ship and sheep, but it is not in words like bat and big. Know that when you're looking for positive and negative examples, depending on the students you're working with, try not to go to really closely paired examples. Note that I did not use cheese and these as examples with the SH sound because quite often students confuse those sounds. I went to a completely different sound. And you also might need to have silly examples to keep students' attention and keep them focused on what you want them to do. That really helps engage students in a much better way than when we're always so serious. Learn to laugh a little. Life is fun. When we're looking at ways we can teach students to do what they need to do, we can look at giving them prompts, and those can be verbal prompts, visual prompts, where I'm kind of pointing to where I want students to put papers. I can give them a physical prompt, which sometimes can be things like an elbow prompt, a shoulder prompt, where I'm getting students' attention. Sometimes with students with more significant disabilities, we might be using a full physical prompt. And even with students without disabilities, a good example is when students are working on letter formation. And so we're helping them shape their hand in the right shape to hold the pencil, or we're holding our hand over theirs to make the letter A so they get that motor movement down. That would be a full physical prompt. We can look at modeling for students, showing them what we want them to do by doing it ourselves and being very deliberate and specific in how we're explaining that. We can provide students with physical guidance to where we want them to go. With younger students sometimes, or younger children, we sometimes hold their hands as we cross the street, right? So we can work on fading our instructions, super important. Some students, we can completely fade guidance, like the example of helping a 5-year-old hold a pencil to write the letter A. Over time, we fade back our prompt and then provide no prompts at all, and they make that letter independently. We can provide graduated guidance for students. We can also provide a time delay where a student starts to read a word, and you'll notice this a lot in Dibble's protocols or in other reading protocols, where you give a student 3 seconds to sound it out and then you provide the word. That's a time delay. We can also look at increasing assistance and decreasing assistance. So sometimes I'll give a student a piece of paper and say, write me a 3-paragraph essay. And I'll look at what they're doing, and as I see them struggling, then I step in and I provide gradual steps of intervention. For other students, I'd say write a 3-paragraph essay. This is how we're going to do it. Here's a study guide. Here is a graphic organizer. Here's the topic we're going to use. So that would be that system of most to least as opposed to least to most. When we're looking at prompts, there are all different kinds of prompts we can provide students, whether that's verbal prompts or visual prompts. I would encourage, when working with students with disability, that we always pair or at least start with visual prompts and verbal prompts together. Lots of students need those visuals in order to understand what's going on. We also want to note that when we're working with students with disabilities, especially students with emotional behavioral disability, the word rules can set kids off, and they can think, first, I want to break the rules. I'm not going to follow the rules. If we talk about procedures, and we have procedures in our class to keep us all safe, procedures are often handled better than rules. So you might want to consider that language difference. Modeling is a fantastic teacher strategy. We've all used this probably in some form or another with students or with people in our lives. So we want to make sure that when we're looking at modeling, that model is competent in the skill, and that is a model that the student will want to follow. So if I'm trying to get a student to do something and they don't care about or respect me, we can kind of work around that by finding someone that they do care about and respect. We will sometimes have students say, I'm not following you or doing that because you are, a woman or a man, you are white or black, or you are Native American, you have Hispanic culture, you come from the wrong street, the wrong neighborhood, you're wearing the wrong shoes, you speak with an accent, whatever that may be. Kids can have all different reasons for liking you, not liking you. Some of them are things like, you smell bad, you have funny clothes, you name it, kids can pick. You have the wrong kind of car, I had a kid tell me one time. So I might not be the best model. Pick a model that's more appropriate that kids will want to follow. Some of the research, this research from 1986 is a little older. We have some research that says students need to see models that are similar to themselves. So a 9-year-old would want to see a model that is a 9-year-old. Other research, especially in the autism community, looking at modeling, says it doesn't matter if the model is similar or dissimilar, as long as the skills being demonstrated are competently done. When we're talking about fading, which is a fantastic strategy, we want to make sure that when we're looking at fading techniques, we're using the most appropriate for the skill that we're trying to fade back our support. So whether that's using time delay or whether that's using decreasing assistance, we want to make sure that we're fading in a way that doesn't lead to gaps in the student skill set. We want to also walk this fine balance of fading quickly enough that we're not leading a student into learned helplessness, but at the same time we're not fading too fast so that they haven't yet mastered the skills and aren't ready for the skill to be faded. There's a fantastic summary chart here of fading prompts that gives you kind of step by step what those look like, and we're actually going to practice some of these in class, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot more time on prompting. But we do know that when we're looking at prompts, we definitely don't want to provide more prompts than are needed. So if a student just needs us to point to the waste paper basket to throw away paper, then we would not go over and you take them by the hand and lead them over to the garbage can and hand over hand put something in the trash. Go with the least amount of prompting necessary, a point prompt or a verbal prompt. And when we're looking at complex behaviors, and we think of some things as, oh, that's simple to do, until we try and actually do it and break it down into steps, and we think, good Lord, that has 90 steps to it. You want to make sure that the complex behaviors, whether that's tying your shoes, going to the bathroom, getting your papers out of your backpack and putting them away, that we've broken that complex task down into its individual parts and that we're providing the right amount of supports and chaining to help that student be successful. Some students need what we call backward chaining, which means that we do everything for the student up till that last step or two, and then we have them do them. Other students need forward chaining, where they first master the initial part of the task, and then we help finish it. So if you think of tying your shoes, that's a great one to think about chaining. Some students want to start and need to start with holding those two laces up and crossing them over. Other students need us to do everything except pull the rabbit ears through to make it tight. So depending on what that student needs, you're going to have a complete task analysis and you're going to provide the appropriate amount of chaining to help them be successful. So we've just talked about chaining and what that looks like. And the final thing we're going to talk about is shaping behaviors. We know that a successful shaping program clearly defines what that behavior looks like, and that we know the steps towards that behavior if there are multiple steps involved, that we've identified what that behavior is, and we know what kind of reinforcers are needed to successfully shape a behavior. If you've got any questions about Chapter 10, please let me know. I'm looking forward to chatting about what we've learned in class.